reminded me, like, I remember the first time I met you was in San Francisco, way back, and then I remember you were still doing corporate work at that time. You were in that pantsuit kind of vibe you
Yeah,
had.
I was.
Yeah, I would be so curious to if you could give us like your journey, how you transformed from that
Yeah.
corporate warrior to where you are now, where you have your own thing, right? Your own,
Yeah.
you're doing your own thing, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Happy
Mm,
to. Well, I would say I'll start when I was a teenager,
mm,
which I loved reading about love and sex. I used to have a
mm.
teen advice column when I was 13 for people to like write
Whoa,
in questions about their crushes and I would respond.
that's so cute.
Right? Isn't it
Yeah,
cute? And then,
yeah.
my favorite book was Why We Love. Um, and so I've always been like a love geek. I'm just like,
Mm,
how do humans come together? How do we connect? Like what's the glue? But so then I studied psychology and neuroscience and leadership. And I was like, I don't know how to make a career on that because I don't want to be a
mm,
therapist. I don't want to just talk about problems, right? I
mm,
want to talk about possibilities.
mm,
And so I didn't see a viable path. So I found, luckily, this leadership consulting job that was amazing. They let me travel all over the world and design and facilitate seminars to executives and coach teams. And I love, like, I'm so grateful for that job because it really gave me skills that I needed. Like,
mm,
how do you design the arc of a week-long experience? And how do you
mm,
hold the attention of a room? And how do you coach teams and notice the subtle dynamics between them? So
mm,
that was that. But then at some point, I was starting to feel like I don't really want to have these conversations because we're talking about business and strategy and how to hit next
mm,
quarter targets. And I'm like, it felt too surface to me. I was like, I want deep questions like, what's your
mm,
calling on earth? What are you actually here to
mm,
do? Are you fulfilled? Do you feel loved? And
mm,
I was just like, there are deep questions I want to be having.
mhm,
And I'm not sure that the corporate world is open for those questions yet. I think we're
mm,
getting there.
mhm,
There's cool initiatives like Search Inside Yourself and some other cool programs, but they're not quite there yet. So
mhm,
I was like, if I want to be going into these taboo areas, asking these big questions, I think I need to leave and start my own thing.
mm,
So that's what I did. And it wasn't linear. I left and I lived on the land, a retreat center in Northern California for a year
mhm,
and helped them with corporate training and how to bring
mm,
connection and mindfulness into corporate training.
mhm.
And then at some point, I got the call to go to Bali,
And you just did it.
which is its own story entirely. But yeah, and then I came to Bali, and that's when my business really started growing.
Wow. Amazing. And just follow the feeling. Is it how I'm just curious how people make that big jump because as you know, we're all it's a lot of fear, like, oh, I can't leave my job. It's my structure, there's a lot of that. So just curious to know how you overcame that, if you can.
Yeah. To me, the feeling gets louder.
All
That's
right,
how I know
yeah.
it's true. There's
Mm,
a great story. The universe first talks to you with a feather, a little whisper,
mm, mm-hmm.
and then it throws a brick at you. And if you're still not listening, then you get run over by a truck. And that has so been my experience of life. And so it's a practice of mine is turning to listen to the feathers because I'm like, I would like to make it less painful. So I'll just
mm,
give you a little example. I had the feeling to leave my job for probably a year before I really did.
mm,
And I was like, yeah, but I'll just make X amount of money until I'm financially safe,
mm, mm.
whatever that means. Or like, then or yeah, once this project is done, or yeah. And then I just remember one weekend, it was Monday morning, and I was getting on the subway to go to work, and I just felt so nauseous. And I like threw up on the subway.
Mm,
And I never throw up. I almost never get sick. And I
mm,
was like, this is interesting. So then I wrote an email to my colleagues. I was like, I can't come into the office today. I have to stay home. I went home and I felt immediately better. I didn't feel nauseous at
Hmm.
all.
Hmm.
And to me, I interpret that as like, oh, my body's just like, stop, stop. We
Ah,
told
yeah,
you to
yeah.
stop going to work.
Hmm.
So it was a couple days later when I finally sent the email and said, okay, I'm leaving in a couple months. But it was a
Amazing.
process, you know, these changes are scary.
Hmm.
The other thing I would say is I could not have done it without support. I had
Hmm.
a coach, I had girlfriends that were cheering me on. I had like people that believed that I would be okay without my job. And
Hmm.
I wouldn't have had the courage to quit without that.
Hmm. Amazing. I like the fact that you mentioned the body. You were, yeah, it's also my experience that, I mean, it's easy to bullshit the mind, but the body is hard because it's like, it's gonna, when you're nauseous, you can't stop that. It's just happening,
Right.
you know? It's involuntary, right? There's something interesting about the involuntary and how it interfaces with the voluntary.
Yeah. I love that you said that you can't bullshit the mind. Or you can bullshit the mind, but you can't bullshit the body.
Yeah.
I
And I
think
think it's
that's so
happening with,
true.
I think this Wuhan virus is a wake up call. Like you can have all these ideas about what the world should be, but when something biological hits you, it's like, what do you
Yeah.
do with that? You know?
And I think there's something, I just want to say one more thing. I think there's something really beautiful in the humility and the
Mm,
surrender of listening to our body, even when we don't understand exactly from our mind, right? Like
mm,
it's humbling it was humbling for me to throw up on the subway and be like, wow, I actually can't go to work. My body is rebelling.
mm.
Even though my mind might have a different plan, like there's something deeper.
Yeah, yeah. It reminds me of I'm really grateful for our training on the limbic system, which is the
Yeah.
more ancient kind of brain,
Yeah.
has been longer in evolutionary time than the neocortex. And
Yeah.
yeah, and in a way, even Elon Musk says it, that the neocortex is in service to the limbic. Really, if you think about it, it's the man riding the elephant. The elephant is the older
Right.
brain, yeah, and it's how we should
Right.
learn to ride that. Oh, before I forget,
Hmm.
so because you have this valuable experience of being both in corporate and in this
Yeah.
personal development embodiment world, what do you think of? Some people are saying that there's a danger that a lot of this, we call it psychotechnologies,
Mm.
like mindfulness, psychedelics,
Mm.
yoga, and stuff like that,
Mm.
are now being co-opted
Mm.
so that we'll take these technologies and then use it to make our employees more productive. Yeah, you're like co-opting the desire world into the production world. What's your take on that?
Mm.
Like it's like instead of I'm going to teach you mindfulness so you can find your own purpose. I'm going to teach you mindfulness so that you can work longer hours without getting tired or something, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's your
I
take
love
on that?
it. My take on that is these tools have a wisdom of their own. Is
Mm,
that like you could try to co-opt them for your own means?
mm,
Like you could try to teach someone mindfulness to make them just productive at your job, but
mm.
it won't work because
Oh, amazing. I
because
love this
once
take on it.
someone starts to use these tools and they get this new perspective and they have a certain awakening, they can't be tamed in the same way.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That landed in my body. I felt like, oh, yeah.
And so I think it's great. I'm like, yeah, teach everyone mindfulness, teach everyone the power of psychedelics and yoga and psycho tools because we need more people who are awake.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, when I was a leadership consultant,
Yeah.
I the last thing I did was helping people start thinking about their purpose.
Yeah.
We would go into companies and work with execs, asking them big questions. And we always did it with the disclaimer, this person may decide to leave once they tap in on their deeper purpose. It may not be
Yeah.
with your company.
Yeah.
Are you willing to take that risk? And,
Yeah.
you know, the companies were like, yeah, we need people that are really bought into being here. And if it's not in their path, then better to know now than later.
Wow, that's very enlightened companies. Like, wow, amazing.
Some of them. Some of
Yeah.
them were like, no, just keep them in their job.
At least you warned them.
Yeah.
This may change everything. Hmm. Yeah. Wow, thank you. It feels really, yeah, I'm receiving a lot of insight. I'm gonna think about that. That this, yeah, I think there's more for me to digest when you said that. Like, don't be afraid because these things, by their nature, it's hard to co-opt because you're awakening people, right? Yeah.